Today I'm going to show you 3 different ways to blend your subject into the background using this elephant dancing in the rain digital background. I'll link it in the description. Okay, so we're going to go over and grab the girl who's going to be dancing with the elephant, and I'm just using my move tool to move her into the scene, just like that. Okay. Now I've already resized her to fit the scene, but if you wanted to resize your subject, all you would have to do, and this is my new subject layer, this is the girl, and in fact I'm going to name it girl so we can keep track. I'm actually going to put her under the rain because we want the rain coming over top of her, and let's just hide the rain layer. So we've got these 3 layers, the background with the elephant, the girl, and the rain that we can turn on and off in this particular digital backdrop. Okay, so we've got our girl. Let's say you wanted to resize yours. The first and most important thing for you to do is to right click and click on Convert to Smart Object. And what that's going to do is, and it takes a minute, but that's going to make it so that when you do Control T to resize, you're not going to lose any quality in the photo as you go larger and smaller. A lot of times you might find that your subject looks pixelated after you have resized, and that's because you haven't converted to a smart object. So make sure you do that first. Okay, she's already about the size that I want her to be. So there's a couple different ways I want to blend her into the background. Right now she looks pretty much pasted in. So I'm going to come over here, and with my zoom tool I'm just going to zoom in here and take a look. And this is obviously a cutout. She was in the grass in the original picture. So if we kind of look down, we can see some areas like down here on her leg. This is not very nice and neat of a cutout. You can see some little fringes of little the original background that she was in. Her leg doesn't look nice and smooth, just not a super perfect cutout. So I'm going to show you one method to sort of fix these things. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure that you have the girl selected, the layer that you're working on. I'm going to come down here and create a layer mask. That's the box on the bottom with a hole in it. So now our mask is white. Everything that shows up white is revealed, black is concealed. So I want to paint black anywhere I don't want to see this girl in the layer, anything that I don't want to see. So I'm up here, I've selected my paintbrush, and I'm going to come down here and make sure that black is selected as my foreground color because I'm trying to paint things off. Okay, so I have a nice soft brush selected. If I click up here, this is where I can change the hardness and softness of my brush. I've got hardness turned all the way down, clicking back on the mask to make that go away. All right, so now I'm just going to brush on the areas that I don't like, that I don't want in there, and I'm using the left and right bracket keys on my keyboard to make the mouse larger or smaller, the cursor. And I'm just going to come in here and start brushing these crazy little colored areas off. And you'll want to be pretty precise as you do this. Every picture is going to be different, but you want to definitely take your time. And we'll come over here to the side and brush off those darker areas from the original background. And what's happening, and this is a good thing, is you'll notice the colors from our background now are starting to bleed over into the skin and into our subject, and that's good because in real life the colors from the environment are going to kind of bleed onto anything that's existing within that environment. Okay, so right now she's got some purples and yellows and magentas bleeding onto the edges of her skin. Okay, I won't take too much time doing that, but you kind of get the idea. So let's come up here to this section of her dress. Right here, it looks like there's a little bit of the green color that existed from the original background that she was standing in. So again, we're going to use a very similar method to get rid of that. The only thing I'm going to show you now is a little trick. When you're getting rid of a color sort of in a straight line. Like, see this green that's sort of on the edge of her dress right here? That's all we really want to get rid of, but we want a nice clean selection to get rid of that. So I'm going to click just sort of on the end of where I want to get rid of the green, where it begins right here. I'm clicking, and now I'm holding down my Shift key. So I'll move it further down the line, and what Photoshop did was it just drew a straight line and painted black in that straight line to get rid of that green fringe, okay? So if you hold down the Shift key as you're making your selections, Photoshop will just go in a straight line, okay? That's something else to sort of practice as you're trying to blend. Here I'm just masking off, I'm just painting black on the mask. And anytime you're painting with a mask, if you find that you're getting a black, like you're painting and you're getting not what you're looking for, make sure that you've selected the mask, okay? Anytime you're working on the mask, you want to make sure that mask is selected, or whatever you're working on, make sure that that is what's selected. That's where a lot of people run into problems. Okay, so we're just going to quickly go around our subject and make sure that everything is masked off the way we like it. Here we've got some kind of razor edges. Might just soften those up a little bit by going around. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger and let the lights, the colors from the background bleed into her skin. See how it got rid of those razor edges? Same thing around the bow on her dress, and I could go around her entire body. If I were doing this, I would really take my time. This can be kind of a long process. It's really up to you how much time you want to take. Some people find it to be fun and therapeutic, others find it to be annoying, so it's really up to you how much time you want to take on all these little details. The nice thing is a lot of times you're not going to see it if you're pulled back like this. Okay, a second way I want to show you to blend your subject into the background, and this one is a big one. You have to make sure the lighting matches. So here you can see on the elephant and on the umbrella, the light is hitting on the right hand side. So we've got light coming from over here. And if you look at our girl, she's not in a similar lighting situation at all. The original picture was taken in a completely different lighting situation. So we want to make sure that we can change it to where light is hitting her in the same place that it's hitting the elephant and the umbrella. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have my girl layer selected. I'm going to come up here and create a curves layer. And then I'm going to come down here to create a clipping mask, the box with the arrow pointing down. And what a clipping mask does is that it makes sure that anything we do within this curves adjustment layer only affects the layer below, which is the girl. You see the arrow here is pointing down to the girl, meaning it's only going to affect the girl. So anything we do in the curves adjustment layer is only affecting our girl. So what I want to do is I want to grab our curves and bring the light up. Okay, and then I'm just going to X out of here. Click on the mask to make sure it's selected. Then I'm going to come over here to my gradient. Click here on the gradient tool. I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is white. White reveals, black conceals. So anything that shows up as white in this mask is going to reveal itself. So because we're on the curves layer, the curves adjustment that we just made is going to be revealed everywhere because everything is white. So right now with my gradient tool selected, white is my foreground, I want this curves layer to show up starting here, but I want it to fade out by the time we get to about here. So I'm just clicking and dragging, and then I let go. Okay, so now you'll notice the mask has changed. Everything that's white, the curves adjustment that we made, shows up. Everything that's black, it does not show up. So if I click on and on that adjustment layer, you'll see what it did. So that already made it look like the light is shining on her from the right, just like it is on the elephant and the umbrella. You'll notice that the elephant is quite shadowed on this side, and she really isn't shadowed on this side. So I'm going to create another curves adjustment layer to create more of a shadow. So I'm going to do the same thing, create a clipping mask so this adjustment layer only affects the girl. I'm going to pull the light down just slightly to create a little bit of a shadow, but again, I don't want it to affect the entire girl. Right now, the entire mask is white. I'm going to come back over here to my gradient tool, and I only want this new curves adjustment to affect her from about right here to maybe about here. So I just click and drag. I'm going to turn the eyeball on and off to show you what we've done. So we've created just a little bit of a shadow on the shadow side of her body. So here we've created a light on the right-hand side of her body and a shadow on the left. And when you're first learning, this can seem very overwhelming. It can seem like a lot, but trust me, with a little bit of practice, this becomes so quick and easy. It'll take you 2 seconds. I know it seems overwhelming if you've never done it before, but just keep plugging away, rewind the video, do it as many times as you need to do it, practice, 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 and you'll get it. Okay, so I would do some more tweaking, and I could, like I said, spend all day on this, but I'm going to go on to a third way that you can blend your subject into the background. Okay, so here I am. The last thing that I did was this curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to name this one Shadow, and to name, I'm just double clicking on the name, and I'm going to name this one Light, because we created a light and a shadow on the girl. The next thing I want to do is, I don't like the color of her dress in this particular scene. We've got a lot of pastels going on in the scene, so I'd rather her dress be more of a pinky, purpley color to sort of maybe match the colors in the umbrella. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Hue Saturation adjustment layer. And again, clicking on the box with the arrow on it to create a clipping mask. That's going to make it so that only the girl is affected. And I'm going to come up here where it says Master. I just want to play with the reds because her dress is red. So I'm going to try and change the color of her dress. Only the reds. So top line is hue. I'm going to change the hue of the reds in her dress. Her skin and everything is changing as well, but that's okay. We'll mask that off. We're only paying attention to the color in her dress. So you'll see as I move the slider over, the color of the dress is changing. Color of the entire girl is changing. I'm going to put it in a spot that looks kind of similar-ish to the colors that are going on in the rest of the scene. So somewhere right in there, sort of a pinky purple, but it's a little too dark, a little too saturated. I'm going to see what happens when I move the lights up. There we go. Make it a little lighter, a little more pastel. I could also play with the saturation. It'll become more or less saturated as I play with that. I think that looks good. Okay. I like that, so I'm going to just X out of here. Now, obviously, I only wanted this to take effect in her dress, and if I click the eyeball on and off, it's taking effect sort of everywhere, isn't it? So, again, we're going to use a layer mask to paint the effect off of her skin and her hair and everywhere that we don't want it to be. So I have my layer mask selected. I'm painting something off, meaning I don't want it to take effect, so I need to make sure that black is selected as my foreground color. White reveals, black conceals. We want to conceal what we just did. So everywhere I paint black, it's going to conceal that adjustment layer that I just created. And in a separate video, I'll show you how to, I did not do a very good job. I did it very quickly when I cut out her hair. In a separate video, I'll show you some tricks to cutting out hair, which I obviously didn't take the time to do in this video. So I'm just painting off of her skin, and you'll want to take your time. I'm not taking my time. I just want you to get the idea of how to do this. See, it's painting. Now you'll see here where I went over out of the lines a little bit. I painted the color adjustment off of her bow. I want it to be back on the bow. That's simple to fix. I'm just switching my foreground color to white, grab my paintbrush, And I'm going to paint it back on the bow. Okay, so I'm just going to go all around the girl, painting this adjustment off with black, just like that. And if I, oops, went out of the lines, paint it back on with white. Okay, so I'm going to step back and take a look, and I would continue painting off of her legs. Oops, still have white selected. Paint it off with black, back on with white. Okay, this is a very sloppy, quick job, but I just want you to get the idea of how to do these techniques. So if I turn that hue saturation adjustment layer on and off, you can see what we've done. We changed the color of her dress. Now there's 1,000,001 different ways you can blend your subject into the background, but we just talked about 3 very important ways. Getting rid of the original background colors around your subject to help the edges sort of fade into the background a little more, let the background colors bleed over your subject. We talked about making the light match your scene, creating lights and shadows where they belong within the scene, and you just look at your background and figure out where the light is coming from and make that light match onto your subject. And then the third thing we talked about was creating a hue saturation adjustment layer to change the colors in your subject to match better or just look better, blend better with the background.